Welcome back in live to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Today we're looking at a 2022 NFL Draft preview, NFL mock draft for the Denver Broncos, one of my more favorite teams to mock for. I think they're a very talented football team that's really only one position away, and that's quarterback, from really being able to compete for that division and compete for a spot in the playoffs. Before I get started on this draft, I don't think I'm going to be taking a quarterback. I think if you want to be able to compete with Justin Herbert, Patty Mahomes, and even Derek Carr potentially in that division, you're not going to do it with any of these rookie quarterbacks. I think it's going to be more one if you can land a splash free agent. I don't see any of these quarterbacks being at that level. Next year, however, CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, you could maybe look towards that. But I think for this draft, it's really worth looking at bolstering up this talent and maybe trying to woo a free agent quarterback like an Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, maybe Deshaun Watson to come over to Denver. They just signed Nathaniel Hackett, the OC for the Packers, so we'll see how that works out. Without further ado, let's get this one going. Got my dunks right here, Saturday morning, doing some mock stuff. Doesn't get better. All right, pick 9. Yeah. Like, do I want? Basically, you're looking at Derek Stingley or Kyle Hamilton, I think. And these are two guys who I think are just going to be absolute studs. I think Kyle Hamilton is really going to be an elite safety, but you already have Simmons back there. I think you go with Derek Stingley, the positional value, put him on the other side of Patrick Surtain, and you have like two. I mean, Patrick Surtain was brilliant this year. Derek Stingley has the ability to be just as good, if not better. He has all the traits too. What you saw out of him that true freshman year at LSU was truly something special. The ball skills, um, physicality, it was all there. I think we got to go with Derek Stingley. I mean, that shores up that back end to be very good for years. And when you're competing against a Herbert, Pat Mahomes twice a year, you need a strong secondary. You see the Bills get burned by it every year when they play the Chiefs in the playoffs. Got to have a nail secondary. And Derek Stingley is going to be doing that. That's actually a really interesting pick. Kyle Hamilton would really also not be bad too. I just think with that positional value and the real ceiling that Derek Stingley has, you got to ride with him. Next picking at 40. Guys that are jumping out at me, I really like Christian Harris at that linebacker spot. I want to see if we can bolster up this offensive line. Not really anybody I'm loving. I mean, I have a second round grade on Bernard Ryman. Like, that wouldn't be a crazy take. Get these contracts, make sure we're not missing any. Got Bradley Chubb for one more year. Hopefully, you can get him back. What do you guys think about Malik Willis here? Because if we're talking about a player who has the juice to compete with those quarterbacks like Herbert and Pat Mahomes, it's probably Malik Willis. The problem is he's also one of the worst quarterbacks. Like right now, he's not good. The film you see at Liberty is not good. Puts the ball in harm's way a lot. He's not consistently accurate, and he's a freak athlete. You should see I think second in the country with most missed tackles, actually behind Kenneth Walker. Dude's an absolute freak and has that juice to be an elite quarterback. He just was like so far from putting that on the film, which is concerning to me. Drake Jackson's another guy who has the juice to be just an absolute elite edge rusher, but again, just failed to put it on the film. And I mean, he just didn't make any improvements from his true freshman year at USC. I really don't hate Jahan Dotson. I'm checking these contracts of some of the wide receivers. You got Tim Patrick through 2025, Cortland Sutton through 2026. So you got some good Jared Judy, obviously, drafted KJ Hamler. Like that, that wide receiver room is loaded, and you might say like, "Yo, Jay, like they don't need another wide receiver." I have a first round grade on John Dotson, and he's a really, really good football player. Um, Wins down the field, uh, wins in the intermediate game, gets great separation, has phenomenal hands. He's actually creeping up on the Traylon Burks, Drake London crop for me. So you could go him, you could go Sean Ryan. What's the deal at linebacker? Strenad, I know, has been kicking around back there. Josie Jewell. Christian Harris is another guy who, I mean, he had a phenomenal, phenomenal game. We're going to go with Christian Harris here. Christian Harris, he played himself into being one of the better linebackers in the country, like down the stretch. Started since his true freshman at Alabama. That's always a good sign. He's got all the physical tools. Goes around 6'2", 240, takes on blocks well. What you want to see from him is just that continued, like, I'm seeing the field well. Um, Definitely struggle to like instinctively play some football, which is a little bit concerning. But a guy who's only played college football for 3 years, like, you can kind of teach that. Him and Brandon Smith, I kind of have the same vibe for. Um, I don't hate Sean Ryan here. I really like this game. He's actually looked really good against Kevon Thibodeau in the games he's played. Tackle situation could get better because I think Bulls is he's got a couple more years on his contract. Bearing Brown, and I was really high on him. He was disappointing this year. Yeah, you could really go and get a Sean Ryan, who's a really solid tackle. Darian Kennard's a tackle, but I see him playing guard in the NFL. I think Sean Ryan's a legit tackle, and just continue to build up some of that talent, and shore up the protection on the offensive line. So when you do have that quarterback, whether it's a quarterback you draft or whether it's a quarterback you get in free agency, we're looking good there. All right, 75 here. I mean, Zion Johnson just can't keep slipping at this point. Uh, He is the best guard I have, second best guard I have. I think he is in my rankings. Um, I have an early second round grade on him, similar to what they have, like 43 prospect. Like, I have him around there, and he's at 75. There's really no reason for this guy to be falling. One of the better run blockers in the country. Just getting Javonte Williams. Like, let's build up that running game. Javonte Williams has the juice to be like a special, special running back. RB2, only behind Najee Harris. And after this year, I'm very comfortable having he's my most optimistic running back from that class. Go get Zion Johnson, him, Quinn Miners inside. Let's start moving some bodies around, getting some running lanes, and really start getting a dominant run game to work off of. Guys I'm looking at right now, like Bailey Zappi is kind of a guy that you could definitely take a flyer on. Hopefully, if like what the quarterback situation is before you draft, so you know if you really need to get one. Because if they don't go out and get one, like, you're gonna want to get one. And Bailey Zappi is a guy who is the most accurate passer in this class. Smaller, doesn't have like the rocket arm, but he is an absolute game manager. Like, he is very accurate. He gets his players the balls on time and in stride accurately. Something you really like look for in a quarterback. It doesn't matter. You see all these guys going with rocket arms and can't hit the broadside of a barn. Like, this dude can hit any target. He just doesn't have that elite arm strength. Ah, Channing Tindall's my guy though. Like, he's still on the board. I think we gotta go get him. Channing Tindall's gonna be like one of the best linebackers in this class. He's only played 600 snaps at Georgia as a result of being behind guys like Monte Rice from last year, Nakobe Dean, Quay Walker. But like towards the end of this year, he pretty much just took over Quay Walker's starting spot, played pretty much every snap, and he is elite speed. Like he's gonna run like in the 4.4s, really impressive speed, and he honestly has really good instincts for only playing 600 snaps um, in his career at Georgia. So that's like really enticing for me. Jackson Kirkland's a guy that I just cannot get behind. I've watched a lot of film on him, and I see him really struggling with physical edge rushers. Just get right up into his pads. Michael Clemens, we passed on Drake Jackson. We ended up going in a different direction with Christian Harris. Bradley Chubb is up on contract after this year. I think Michael Clemens is an edge rusher who has all the juice in the world to be just a really good edge rusher. Really long, has really powerful hands. I just want to see him use those hands more. You have these super long arms, and I just feel like he doesn't use them enough. He's got a great get off. He's got a great body. I mean, you can pull up a picture of this dude. His arms and like his like the look that he has is incredible. He plays with like he plays he's played well. And I think he's just getting a little like overshadowed. Like look at those arms, man. I mean, he's got to excite you. Got pythons on him too. Yeah, we're gonna go get him. He's a guy that I think has an extremely high ceiling if he can learn and refine some of that pass rushing moves. I feel like sometimes he's out there just not necessarily with the plan. And when you have that great length, use it. You gotta use it. And he sometimes does, and he's phenomenal. It's just not consistent enough. He's a guy who shot up draft boards. Man, Channing Tindall and Christian Harris, you got to be excited about that. Let's go to this big board here. Rashad White's one of my favorite running backs in the class. I don't think you guys need another running back with Javonte Williams. Like just let him be the workhorse. Maybe get somebody to spell him. I'm not a huge fan of like paying Melvin Gordon. He's up on contract, correct? Or did they send him back? Yeah, I believe he's up on contract. So you can be looking for another running back kind of to spell Javonte Williams. And I'm a huge fan of getting rookie running backs because you don't have to pay him that much. On this channel, we're not like loving the value of like paying a big running back in free agency. I don't know if I'm gonna grab one now though. Any guys you love here? Any guys you love? Yeah, there's a guy I love. Dontario Drummond. Where is he at? Show me Dontario Drummond. Ole Miss wide receiver. Is he still on the board? He is. This guy is like, he's got a little Deebo Samuel to his game, and that really started this year with this Ole Miss offense. Lane Kiffin likes to get the ball into his playmakers' hands creatively. He's Dontario Jones. He's built like a running back, kind of like Deebo Samuel. Really thick legs. He's 220, fast, got good ball skills. Like the ceiling for this dude is ridiculously high. You can kind of open up that offense and just, I mean, get your playmakers the ball in space. Dontario Drummond's one of those guys, and it's going to help your offense. I think he's a really interesting guy to look at. Get kind of in this round. Another pick. You guys rack up the picks in a late, and like it's funny because there's a lot of guys that I really like around this range. Jojo Doman, if we didn't get two linebackers, I already really like him. He plays like nickel at Nebraska, which is definitely not his like position. That being said, um, like he showed that he can play pretty effectively in space, and against slot wide receivers, tight ends in the slot. We're gonna go with Max Mitchell here. Max Mitchell's a guy who I'm thinking is gonna jump up draft boards as the pro days and the Senior Bowls roll around. Just low right now because he hasn't shown he can do it against elite competition playing at Louisiana, but he is a really really good football player. Gets into the Senior Bowl, does some good things. I'm really optimistic about where he's going to be ending up. I think he's a steal late, maybe a year or two developmental, but man, I like what I saw out of him. Highest graded tackle in all PFF, just dominant. I think maybe two behind Bernie Ryman, but he was, I mean, elite graded out, which I guess you'd expect when you taking guys that high. But I know who we're getting, Josh Pascal. I don't even have to think about it. This dude, get him in the late, get him in day 3 late. Um, he has phenomenal film. He just kind of lacks like the elite tools. He plays violently, has a great get off, and he's a little bit of a tweener, right? I don't know if you guys remember the prospect Boogie Bash from last year. When you're sitting around like 285, it's like, okay, do you have the elite bend and get off to be a good edge defender? You're a little big, but you're not really big enough to play inside. That being said, they used him both ways at Kentucky. They would sometimes put him over the guard, sometimes split him outside of the tackle. And he just, I mean, all he did was produce and be disruptive. I think he's got a great bull rush to kind of collapse pockets. And he's a high character dude. 2-time captain at Kentucky. He actually had I think it was lymphomas or something like that. Missed a whole year, lost a lot of weight, put it back on, and like just a really solid football player for them. Um, there's a couple guys I like late here. Reed Blankenship from Middle Tennessee was one of the best, like statistically speaking, safeties. Uh, Led the team in tackles. I think had like 2 or 3 interceptions. Kind of like lit up the stat sheet for them, and was a bright spot in what otherwise was just like not a good team. Jeremiah Gemmell. I have a funny story about him. We were watching, me and my brother, we were watching film on Chasser Rock from a couple years ago during quarantine. And we're like, who's this other linebacker? Look him up. 44, I believe his number was Jeremiah Gemmell. I'm like, this dude is an absolute stud. Uh, Kind of all around the football. A little bit kind of reminds me of Justin Strnad, where it's like, yeah, you're not going super high like a Christian Harris or Channing Tindall because you don't have like that elite speed, the elite physical traits that the NFL looks for. But you're just a good football player. Justin Strnad was just a good football player for Wake Forest. When he went out with that injury senior year, like that team got way worse, and that's kind of a sign that how important you are um, to that team. We're gonna go get. I mean, like draft good football players here. Same thing with Josh Pascal. Draft good football players who are going to be good. And both these guys are going to make the 53 man. Just what it is. Another pick at 250. Man, I really think like Denver's got to try to find some of these sleepers, and there are some out here. There are some out here. There's a wide receiver that I really like in Tay Martin from Oklahoma State. He was on just like an absolute abysmal offense. Spencer Sanders is like not that elite of it. He's just not a good passer. Good athlete, but not a good passer. Tay Martin was like the only pass catcher to produce there. He's long. He gets good separation. Has good hands. Like it's just like it's a good recipe. All right, let's look at the overall haul here. Derek Stingley at 9 is just phenomenal. I mean, if they get Derek Stingley, I'm going to be so excited to watch Pat Surtain and Derek Stingley for years. Like, man, oh man, that's exciting. Christian Harris. Looking back, we got Channing Tindall later. Maybe Jahan Dotson's the pick there. That being said, Christian Harris is just going to be a really good linebacker. You pair him up with Channing Tindall. That's a very athletic and high ceiling linebacker room. And you're going to hit on one of them, right? Even because like they both kind of have the similar like, all right, let's get those instincts going. Like they don't have the instincts like a Devin Lloyd or a Nakobe Dean, but they got the physical traits too. That's exciting. Sean Ryan, tackle from UCLA. I loved what I saw from him against Kevon Thibodeau. And that's like kind of what you look for in those tackles. How are you doing against the elite edge rushers? Someone like a Nicholas Petit-Frere, every time he faced an elite edge rusher, he struggled. Like, guess what? You're facing elite edge rushers every week in the NFL. You got to be able to hold your own. And he did that. Zion Johnson is just, that was a value pick. I had an early second round grade on this dude, and he falls to early three. Go get him. Channing Tindall, we already talked about him. Michael Clemens and Ontario Drummond are just absolute. Like, I think they have all the tools to be elite NFL players. Getting them in late day two, early day three range is intriguing. Max Mitchell, a guy who just put together phenomenal film, just not at the Power Five level, so he's slipping. Maybe a little bit like Quinn Miners. Like, that dude is just, he was a good football player. Goes to the Senior Bowl and moves his draft stack up a lot. I'd expect kind of a similar story to Max Mitchell. Josh Pascal, I love him. One of like my pet cats in this draft. In this draft process, and then you go get two good football players in Jeremiah Gemmell and Tate Martin. I'm happy with the overall. I sometimes I just wish, like, there's a lot of talent on this offensive side of the ball for the Broncos, and I kind of wish that we maybe added one more piece in the top two picks. That being said, you got two really good football players there. With that being said, that's a wrap on the 2022 NFL mock for the Denver Broncos. I'm excited about this team. I think they can be good. You just got to figure out that quarterback position. We didn't take one here. Um, that being said, thanks for rocking with the boys, and we will be back with more NFL draft content coming soon. Peace, y'all.